Nikki, I've seen you before, but I don't think we ever had an opportunity to sit down and chat.
Yeah, this
It's a little
chair
tall,
is
right?
A little
Yeah,
tall.
because I got long legs. And then if you sit down on, so I everybody get back home, I stack two chairs on top of each other because otherwise it makes you look like a midget. Like if you sit down, like one chair lower, and you'd be down below the desk.
Okay, makes
So
sense.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
And they're not the comfiest things in the world. I thought about bringing my chair because I have a really nice set of interview chairs, but I already had so much stuff in the back of my pickup. I was like, they'll have chairs. I'm bringing chairs next year.
It works.
So, Nikki, tell us about yourself. Tell us who you are, where you're from, all that sort of stuff.
Sure. My name is Nikki Gosser, and I am from the great state of Tennessee. And I'm executive director of the Crime Prevention Research Center, but I'm also a victim of a violent crime. 13 years ago, my husband Benjamin was murdered right in front of me by a man who was stalking me. And because of Tennessee state law at that time, I had to leave my legal permitted firearm that I normally carry for self-defense locked inside of my vehicle because Ben and I were inside of a restaurant that was a gun-free zone, and I followed the law. Of course, the man who was stalking me did not have a permit to carry. He brought a gun in illegally into the middle of a gun-free zone, and I'd asked management to please remove him because I realized I was being stalked. And when they confronted him and asked him to leave, he pulled a 45 from a shoulder holster under his jacket and shot my husband 7 times in front of myself and everyone in the middle of a busy restaurant. And I'll probably wonder for the rest of my life if I could have prevented that. Of course, I'll never know because I was denied a chance. I was stalked and defenseless, and over these past 13 years, I've just tried to educate people about the dangers of gun-free zones and how they actually make things easier for bad people with evil intent. And they make, the good people absolutely helpless. I think gun-free zones actually encourage those who are evil.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're putting a label on a building that says everyone here has been disarmed for your convenience. Like, I really feel like people at home, here's my advice. This isn't AZCDL advice. Go print a sign that says this facility has disarmed all of its patrons for your convenience, and stick it to their building. I mean, because it's not exactly graffiti. You know what I mean? I don't think you can be arrested or charged for it. But I think more owners, every time I sit down and talk to an owner about that sign and what it means, like, because in our state, it's a no trespassing sign. And law enforcement that's off duty. It's private property. So it prevents them from going in there, sitting down, having lunch. Your CCW carrier who's passed a background check that hasn't violated any laws, can't have a CCW, etc. And in our state, I mean, really it's the general practice of everybody to conceal carry everywhere they go. And our permit allows for all weapons. It's the most ridiculous thing in the world, and I don't understand people's logic. How long were you married?
Ben and I had only been married for 1 year, 4 months, and 2 days.
And how long ago was this?
It was 13. It was over. Well, it was in April 2009, so okay. 13 years ago.
And how did you
get through all of that?
How did you get through all that? I can't imagine.
It wasn't easy. Obviously, I had a very difficult time, as anyone would. Of course, I was depressed, and it was awful. But I started speaking out because so many victims of these horrible crimes. I hate the word victim, but I don't know what to use. Survivor, I guess.
Survivor.
But so many of these people that go through these horrible things, they somehow blame the gun. And I felt it was important to speak up as a victim of a violent crime, what some people call gun violence, But I call it violence. It's just violent. It's violence, period.
And you could shrink into a shell, or you could come back swinging. And what I'm seeing right now is somebody who came back swinging. You've got a book sitting here that I imagine probably tells your story, right?
Yes.
This is Stockton Defenseless, the true story. Susanna Hupp and Andrew Pollock both put in some forwards there for you. Where can you find this?
You can find that on Amazon and also at my website, stalkedanddefenseless.com.
Okay.
But yeah, I felt like it was important to speak up because I do not blame the gun. I blame the murderer. I blame, obviously, people that support these laws that make good law-abiding people helpless. We all need to speak out. I want to encourage others to speak out and to get involved, and that's why I'm here to speak today. As a voice of, a victim that feels differently about these things. I support gun rights completely.
So I'll let you in on a personal story. My wife just yesterday was taking my daughter out clothes shopping. My daughter is almost 16 this December. And one of their favorite places to go is Ross, because she's like, I go to Ross first. Whatever we can't find there, then we go to the other stores and stuff. And she had a woman approach her, well-dressed, didn't really stick out. And my wife's just searching through the recs, and she starts asking questions. I'm like, gosh, you girls are so beautiful. How old is your daughter? Oh, she's 16. Mm-hmm. And she's like, it started asking really, personal information. Like, oh, so, are you single? And she's like, no, oh, is your husband here today? And I was, no. And she noticed like another creepy guy who was like observing her. And this woman was just grabbing things off the shelves while she's having the conversation. And she wasn't really looking at the items, but she's still asking all these deep personal questions. And one of the things that we suffer from here in Arizona is the child sex trafficking. Mm-hmm. And so while she's reaching for things, what my wife noticed on her arm was needle tracks. My wife's a nurse. So now she puts two and two together, and she realizes that this woman and that guy are doing something. And she's like, all right, that's it. Snatched my daughter up and said, I'm sorry, we have to get going. My husband's waiting for me, and beeline for the car and drove a strange route home. So I'm coming home, and I get a text that says, I need you to search my car for any tracking devices.
Oh, wow.
When you get home. And no problem. Like, the answer was no problem. I don't know what's going on. And she's like, and make sure my daughter doesn't know. And I was like, all right, how do I do that? Because I'm going to get deep underneath that car and look. You know what I mean? But so that stuff rings home. I constantly am encouraging her to not to be defensive. She hasn't made that full commitment. She goes running, jogging. She's out by herself. She goes hiking. She typically always carries, but in this one particular instance, she's like, I'm really starting to rethink making sure I always have it with me. And I'm like, yes. Why do you think it is so many people wait for something and forgive me, why do you think so many people wait till something happens before they make it a real commitment? Like, why do we wait for bad laws to get passed before we fight for them? Why do we wait for something bad to happen for us before we carry?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, in my case, I do feel bad that I never actually got involved. You may not want to be involved in politics, but politics will be involved with you. And, if you don't get involved, I just never thought about it, honestly. I was just living my life like anybody else. I was happily married and living my life. And
were you guys big gun people then?
No.
Going to the range?
I was trained, and I went to the range, and I had my permit to carry, and I had my gun with me that night, but it was locked in my vehicle. Well,
I'm like you. I'm like, I don't want to violate the law.
Right. Penalties really matter to good law-abiding people. I don't want to lose my right to carry. Sure. I don't want to lose my ability.
On your record.
Yeah. I mean, penalties matter to us.
Yeah.
But to someone with evil intent, those penalties don't mean anything.
Yep.
If they're willing to murder,
they're willing to do anything.
Yeah. So
we see them attacking kids. And I know a lot of people kind of picture, because all we ever see are the mugshots, like the way the media reports it. This deranged individual, with all this stuff, and they show the tattoos, the scars, and the ski mask, whatever, right? Mm-hmm. But then they act shocked when it's an average looking every day, there was no previous warning signs and so on and so forth. Like, evil is evil. Mm-hmm. And it's everywhere all the time. They choose the place and time. So you have to, it's not like, well, I'm only going to do it Monday through Friday or Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Like, it has to be an all the time lifestyle change kind of thing.
Right.
And if the laws are bad and prevent you from doing stuff, you have to get involved in the laws and changing them now, because no one wants to end up in that situation.
Right. Yeah. And I tell people, I don't want people to be paranoid, but I do want people to be prepared, because nobody ever really thinks that something that horrific can happen to them and their loved ones. But I'm here to tell you that it can.
What's the end? Tell us a happy side of the story. They catch the guy.
He was tackled by a United States Marine that just happened to be in the crowd, and then 4 or 5 other guys jumped on top of him, and they held him down until the police came. But I can tell you that the police arrived within 3 minutes of the 911 call, and
3 minutes.
That's very fast.
It's an
but
eternity.
It's an eternity when it's happening
when you're there
to you and your loved one. He was arrested. It went to trial. He tried the insanity defense. That didn't work, but defense attorneys bring mental health experts in. They said he had delusional disorder and erotomania, and
mommy didn't love him.
The judge was a liberal judge in Nashville, Tennessee, and he ended up, despite all of the overwhelming evidence of premeditation, he dropped it down to the lesser offense of second degree. So this guy got 23 years at 100% with no parole. But that was a lie, because he's allowed to earn early release good behavior credits. So he's going to be released in just 6 more years, which is terrifying.
How long did the trial take to the sentencing?
I waited for 3 years for the trial.
To start?
Yeah.
Okay, 3 years for it to start. How long did the trial take?
A
couple months?
No, a couple days.
Okay,
but
and then the sentencing?
You have to wait another month or so. It was frustrating.
So all in all, it's about 3 years.
Yeah.
So you've had this traumatic event happen. You at least get the guy arrested. He's charged. You're waiting for 3 whole years to find out the outcome. And during that entire time, you're reliving this moment every single day.
It's also continued. His stalking behavior has continued from prison. He has sent me twisted love letters from prison for years. And the feds have now charged him with federal stalking. And the federal trial is next month in Nashville. So I've got to go face this evil man again in court, and pray that he gets the max, which is only 5 years for that felony offense. He's still getting out, and it's terrifying. So I tell people, especially women, you need to protect yourself, because the justice system isn't going to do it.
I've got a friend who happens to live in Tennessee named Matt Messino. He's a former instructor of mine. He has his own training company, but he also is retired law enforcement from here in the state of Arizona. Throwing your name out there, Matt. And so since you're in Tennessee, and I want to say that he's right around that Nashville area, he's got his own private property, and he's a national champion shooter.
I want to go shooting with him.
You're going to love him. You're going to love his wife. His wife, in my opinion, I think his wife actually outshoots him.
She's a better shot?
That's awesome. She actually caught a ricochet in the leg and wanted to finish the competition. Both of them are amazing people.
That's some dedication.
So I definitely want to forward their information to you, even if it's through Cheryl or whatever. I'll make sure I get it to you.
Sure.
Because I think that would be a great best friend to have there. If you want to go and do some private whatever stuff, he'd be a great person to link up with.
I would love that.
What else are you doing? You've got your story told. Are you involved in legislation and stuff going on in Tennessee? Any groups there?
I am.
Gunners of America?
Yeah. I actually helped get a lifetime order of protection law in the state of Tennessee this past year. I tell people it is just a piece of paper. However, think outside the box. It is a piece of paper with the weight of law behind it. And if for some reason you did fear for your life, justifiably, and you need to protect yourself to stop the threat, that can provide a pretty solid defense.
What it does is it provides that there's a preeminent thing going on.
Right.
This situation already existed, and this person proved it. So
and due process is involved. People freak out when they're like, a lifetime order of protection. I'm like, the person has to be convicted of a violent felony against you. And you, as the victim, can then petition a court for the lifetime order of protection. It may be granted, it may not be. That's up to the judge and the evidence. And I was the very first Tennessean to be granted the lifetime order of protection.
You go, girl. Listen, I love what you're doing. I appreciate you sharing your story with us. And definitely we're going to trade information. I'm looking forward to seeing you do more with this stuff. I can't imagine what you've gone through to get to where you are today, but I love what you're doing with it, the way you're rebounding and
Thank
tackling
you.
it.
We also have restaurant carry that passed in Tennessee, and I worked on that one too in the background. So yeah, now as long as you're a permit holder, we've got constitutional carry too now. So
It needs to be for all weapons.
you can carry in any restaurant that serves alcohol as long as you're not drinking any alcohol. They do allow a posting provision. It's up to the business owner.
So where can everybody find you if they want to follow you, contact you?
My website is stalkedanddefenseless.com, but check out the Crime Prevention Research Center.
Oh, okay.
Our website is crimeresearch.org.
Yeah. And
you can find me there as well.
That's John Lott?
Yes. Yep. I work for Dr. Lott. And awesome. You should sign up there for
Love
our
the
newsletter.
Research he's doing. We'll be putting out a lot more information about John Lott because he's got one of the most extensive studies.
Yeah. He wrote More Guns, Less Crime.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for spending your time with us, Nikki. And I'm definitely going to be following you. I appreciate you sharing your story with us.
Thank you.
Ben would be proud.
I think so.
Ben would be proud. You keep it up. Okay? Thank you so much.
All right.